Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Lily. I am so happy you're here with me today. In today's video, I am going to show you or give you a preview of the new little golden books that I am going to be working on. And I was only going to work on one. Just one. But as I was going through my little golden books, I discovered that I have 6 Bambi books. So stinking cute. Let me show you which ones I'm going to be working on. I have 2 of these, 1 of these, and 3 of these, all from different years. This Bambi series is going to be so much fun. I don't know how I get myself into these things. I don't know how I went from 1 to 6, but here we are. Today's video is going to be somewhat of a setup video, showing you what my process is going to be like. Maybe I will even show you how I save the golden spine. I will probably do that to a couple of them just so you could see what that process is like. And I'll just be talking about the entire setup process as well. I probably won't get done with all of these journals in today's session, but I'm going to get a really good start. Do you want to see how I prep my little golden books? Join me in the Crafty Loft. See you there. I had every intention of only working on one little golden book junk journal. And as I was going through, I have a little bookshelf where I keep all of my little golden books. As I started going through those books, to kind of decide which one I was going to select to work on, I realized I had 6 Bambi books. I had no idea because they're not grouped together. They just kind of all live on that bookshelf. And when I saw the first Bambi book, I pulled it, and then I thought, well, let me keep going and see what else I have, or what kind of inspiration I was feeling at that moment. And then I came across book number 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then 6. I was like, oh my gosh, how did I accumulate 6 little golden Bambi books? Anyway, but here we are. And I decided, well, if I'm going to work on one Bambi book, let me just work on 6. And these are all from different years. Most of them are from 1975. Some of them, one of them has a little bit of water damage, and then a couple have a little bit of damage to the front cover where it's peeling, like this one. 2 of them have that, and then some of them have some age and some wear on the actual spine, and then a couple, the spine doesn't even look gold; it looks silver because it's old. It's probably been exposed to the elements. And then this one has a torn page, but guess what? They all have character, and they are all going to turn into beautiful little golden books. Have you seen the little golden books that I have created? If you haven't, I am going to link a video up above where it's a flip through video where I worked on, I think it was 12 of them. 12! That was insane. I will have that video for you linked up above. And throughout the video, if I reference any other videos, you will find all of those videos in the description area. You just open that up, scroll to the bottom, and you will find all of the thumbnails of all the videos I referenced today. The very first thing I do is I inspect all of the little golden books. I assess the damage. And some of them are actually in really good condition, but there are others that have a little bit of wear and tear. We're talking 1975. That is 50 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, 50 years ago. And once, I clean them all up, I give them a dry cleaning. I will take a cleaning wipe, like a Clorox wipe. One that is just a little bit damp. I squeeze any excess cleaner and water out, and I give it a very quick cleaning on the front cover, the back cover, and also kind of dust the pages very lightly. I just want to give them a quick cleaning. I don't want to oversaturate the cover nor the pages with a lot of moisture. So after I do that, it is time to take the staples apart. Each little golden book is composed of 2 signatures, each signature with 3 papers folded in half, okay? Each one does. There have been some special editions and some limited edition little golden books that have extra pages, but most of them only have 2 signatures. And when right before I begin to wiggle out the staples, I identify where the staples are, and you can kind of tell because the staples will be somewhat raised underneath the gold foil on the spine. And so once I have identified where the staples are, I open the little golden book to the center and I take a blunt object, just like what I like to work with is the bone folder. And I very carefully begin to wiggle the middle of the inside of the little golden book, just kind of wiggle it back and forth to loosen where the staple is. Now I just showed you that with my left hand I am holding the spine because I don't want to pierce the golden spine with my bone folder. So I'm being very careful that I don't go too far into the spine. Otherwise, guess what's going to happen? We're going to poke a hole right through. And if that happens, it's okay. We can fix it with glue or, a clear adhesive. This first book that I'm working on was really tricky to loosen the staple. And as I was working on it, I realized it's because the staples were rusted, and that will happen. You'll come across rusted staples, and what happens there is it binds the papers, and it's so hard to loosen the papers from a rusted staple. And not only were the staples rusty, but I was rusty. The last time I worked on a little golden book was 2024, right around Christmas time. And when I go through a long period of time where I haven't worked on little golden books, I get a little bit rusty. I kind of forget the steps, but the more I work on them, the easier it gets. So I will tell you that I was a little bit rusty working on this first one. I'm only going to remove the staples from 2 of the little golden books. I have 6, but I'm only going to work on 2 in this video. This is a long video. It is a slow process. So grab yourself a cuppa, sit back and enjoy this because I am going to go through all of this very slowly. I have done many videos of this process where I save the golden spine. I like to save the golden spine. I think that is the iconic part of the little golden book. And there are so many great tutorials on little golden book junk journals, but I like to save the golden spine. And when I started working on little golden books, I didn't see any where they saved the golden spine. I saw a lot of them where they would cut the golden spine and do coil binding or even add more cardboard and fabric to that spine. And those are wonderful. There's nothing wrong with those journals. But I wanted to create a junk journal using these little golden books where I save that golden spine. Sometimes the golden spine will be red, especially Christmas edition. There will be special Christmas edition little golden books that will have a red spine. And then in some cases it's silver because it's just, so old. Whatever the color of your little golden spine is, I like to save that part. I like to preserve it. I like to showcase it. And this is why I have this process. Now, I'm still struggling with the staples, and I have gone in and tried to wiggle the staples loose. And by wiggling loose, I mean I'm trying to expand the spine very carefully so that the little prongs or the tines from the staple become loose and separate. But because these are rusted, they weren't budging. And I'm going to show you what I do in just a moment. This is my preferred method. I have received so many suggestions to remove the staples, and I take all of those into consideration. But I've now been making these little golden books for many, many years. And this is how I like to do it. I like to go in there with my bone folder and I like to wiggle. And you have to be patient. The 2 journals that I work on today, the entire process took me an hour and a half. And that was only 2 of the little golden books. I have 6 to work on. And so off camera, I worked on the other 4, or else we would be here for 8 hours. This is a time-consuming project. And maybe that's why I don't work on them so often, because I know how much work goes into making these little golden books. There are easier methods. I'm sure there are. But this is what works for me. And it's also really important for me to save that golden spine. And what I wanted to say a moment ago is when I first started working on these, I didn't see any journals, junk journals, saving the golden spine, and so I had to come up with my own method, and this is what I have done. Because I struggled loosening the little staple with my bone folder, I went in with these scissors, and I thought, I'm just going to cut the staples. I couldn't cut them, and normally I can snip the staples with these Tim Holtz little scissors, and they weren't budging. They were thick and rusted, and I couldn't get in there far enough to snip the little staples. And so I tried a couple of times and then I gave up. So I'm showing you all of my tips, my tricks, and also my struggles. And let me tell you, I struggled with this book. And then I had an aha moment. I remembered one of your suggestions, and that is to use a heat gun to loosen the adhesive, and that will make it easier to lift that golden tape away from the spine, and then the staple will be exposed, and then I'll be able to easily remove it. Okay? So I remembered that was one of your suggestions, and I've never done this before. So I thought, let's give it a go. I had already, and I edited some of the struggle here. I edited that out. So now I am going to take your recommendation, and I'm going to very carefully try to lift that golden tape by heating up with my heat gun. And I've never done this, so I'm going across with my heat tool very carefully and only for a few seconds, because at this point I didn't know what I was doing. This is the first time I've ever used this method, and I also didn't want to damage the book. And I was also afraid that the heat would crinkle the gold foil, maybe even tarnish it even more. I didn't know. I didn't know what to expect. So I only heated it for a few seconds. And then with my little pick, I would very carefully lift it. Very, very carefully. And then I would go in again with the heat tool, heat it up for a few seconds, and then go back with my little pokey tool and then lift it away. So what you're watching me do now is very carefully, I am lifting the foil tape away from the spine. And I'm pointing out that I found where the staple is. And so I am now beginning to expose the staple. So I am going to very carefully, and I'm not forcing this because I don't want to tear that gold foil. And the pick is thin enough where I can get it underneath the foil and the spine without causing any damage. And you want to go very easy and very carefully. Worst case scenario, I go too hard and I tear that gold foil. Don't stress. If that happens to you, luckily that did not happen to me. But if it does, then we just fix it with glue or adhesive. These are old books, they're fragile, they're delicate, but we also have all of the tools in our crafty stash to make repairs. Okay, so don't stress, we do the best we can. And this process requires a lot of patience, a lot of trial and error. If you are thinking about working on a little golden book junk journal, you do what works best for you. I am showing you the methods that have worked for me and also trying out new things as well. This is probably something that I would have done off camera to see if it worked. But because I struggled so much trying to pry the staples apart, I thought, let's just give it a go. What could go wrong? What's the worst that can happen? I don't know. I honestly didn't know what to expect. So again, I'm going back and forth and I'm being very careful. I don't want to ruin the golden foil. And I'm trying to expose the staples. The goal here is to completely lift the gold foil away from the spine. So then I can grab my staple remover and easily go in and just pry it up. And why I flipped it, I don't remember. I don't remember why I flipped it and I'm going on the reverse side. I wonder if, do you know how when you staple, you have the little tines on one end and then like the top of the staple on the other? I wonder if this is, yep, that's exactly what I did. And so this is the part of the staple that I need so that then I can take my staple remover and lift the staple apart. So I was working on the opposite side, and that's not the side I want. I want the top of the staple. Does that make sense? And I think this side and this side is heating up a little bit better and loosening up that adhesive much faster. I'm just sliding my little pokey tool across, getting it in there. I don't know what I think about this. It did work. I was able, and you'll see little by little, I'm able to lift that gold foil, and I stop where the adhesive is no longer like soft, because I don't want to rip the gold foil. And I just heat it up a little bit at a time and then glide either the pokey tool or the bone folder across until I completely expose those staples. Would I do this again? I'm going to be honest with you and say no. And I'll explain why in just a moment. So for this first one, I thought I'd give it a go. And I'm happy because I now have exposed the staples, and I'm going to take my staple remover, and this is the remover I was referring to, and I'm going to get in there and I'm going to pull it apart. But I need to pull that gold foil back even more so that I can get a good grip on that staple without tearing into it. So I would probably not do this method again. It took a very long time, and the only reason I would ever try this method again is if I come across stubborn staples like these. Otherwise, I will go back and I will continue to do my method. And I say this because I worked on the 4 other Bambi journals or books off camera, and I did it in my old method. And it was so easy and so much faster than having to warm up with the heat tool. And that is why. And even the second one that I'm going to work on, I don't think I used the heat tool. I didn't have to. It's much easier for me to use the bone folder. But I decided to leave this in the video to show you that you do have options. There's always more than one way to do something. You have to experiment. You have to give things a try. You just have to begin. You just have to start, and you will develop your own techniques and your own style, and you will always do what is best for you. Those were so rusted and so stubborn. Look at that huge staple. It was huge. Where I couldn't completely pull it out with my staple remover, I had to grab my little pliers to pull those staples out. So if you do this, just be really careful. You don't want to prick yourself. You want to protect your eyes when you are working with sharp objects. You want to also protect your hands. So ta-da! Goal achieved. I have removed the staple. So now this is, let me tell you why I won't do this again. Heating up that gold foil wrinkled the foil. And it is wonky and all out of shape. And I didn't like that. So I had to heat it up again just to make it flat. And I feel that it was too damaging, or too, I don't know. I'm just not going to do this again. I don't like the way it wrinkled it. It almost made it, and it made it really hard, where that foil, should be nice and soft, like almost like aluminum foil. But after I heated it up, it was really hard. In the center on the inside center of all of the Golden Book, there is, the center part has a little bit of adhesive, which keeps the signatures together. So the signatures are also attached, and they're held with that staple. But see that middle center right there? There's adhesive in there that helps the signatures stay in place. So I had to heat that up to also remove it very carefully so that I don't tear them. These are the two signatures that are in the little Golden Books. It is 3 large papers that are folded in half. And I'm showing you right here the 3 pages, 1, 2, 3, folded in half to make one signature. Each signature has 3 pages folded in half, which makes 6 pages. And I am going to keep them in order, and I'm going to clip them so that I don't mix them up. And I'm going to set them aside while I continue to work on the spine. The next step here, do you see that center part? Once I removed the signatures, that spine almost wants to like trifold, like concertina fold on you. So I need to strengthen that spine to prevent it from folding in on itself, from fanning or trifold or concertina-ing on you. Concertina, do you know what I mean? Like a fan. And so now what I'm doing, before I get to strengthening the spine, I need to smooth out the gold foil that got all wrinkly. So I'm heating it up just a little bit and trying to smooth it out as best as I possibly can. And this is the reason why I probably will not do this again. I think it ruined. I don't want to say ruined. It didn't ruin it. But I don't like how it kind of wrinkled it up a little bit. It didn't ruin it. I'm not going to do this again. Unless, never say never, right? Unless I absolutely have to, like I did with this one. Otherwise, I will keep prying with my little bone folder to try to break that staple open. I'm going to take some of this Ultimate Glue, which is one of my favorite adhesives, and I'm going to glue the gold foil back in place. And then try to smooth it out as best as I possibly can. So I'm just using this little rubber spatula to smooth that out, and then I'm using my big green spatula or scraper to flatten everything out as best as I possibly can. So you have to go slow, you have to be patient. I want to make this spine look as best as possible. And it's all trial and error. So as long as you have your tools ready to go, you shouldn't have any problems. And experiment with different things until you find what works for you. You could see how that the lower part of the spine is a little bit damaged. It was already like that. Checking to see if everything else, if the entire foil is glued down. And I'm going to add a little bit more glue to make sure that it is completely sealed. If I miss a little bit of glue, it's okay. I just want to level it and smooth it down as best as possible, because one of the next steps is I am going to cover the outside of the golden spine and the inside of the golden spine with book binding clear tape. I'm going to show you what that tape looks like in just a moment. It is made by the Scotch brand, and it is specifically made for book binding. It is 4 inches wide. So there's plenty. It's wide enough so that it is going to protect the spine, the outside and the inside. I love that tape so much. And when you see it, you'll see what I'm talking about. I also have it linked in the description area down below. So if it's something that you would like to work with, I have that linked in the description area. It is very similar to packaging tape, which is also made by Scotch, the Scotch brand packaging tape, except it's wider and a little bit thicker. But if you use packaging tape, there's nothing wrong with that. I used packaging tape for years and years, but it wasn't wide. I had to double up on the width, where this is already 4 inches wide, and I'm able to use it in one go, one pass. Use what you have. Oh, and the other thing with the book binding tape, it doesn't yellow, where the Scotch packaging tape has a slightly yellow tint, but it doesn't matter because we're using it over the golden spine, and the golden spine is yellow, so it's okay. So now I inspect the golden spine, make sure that I have repaired it as best as I possibly can. That little corner was folded, so I'm trying to unfold it and maybe add a little bit more adhesive if I need to. But that is looking really good. So now I'm going to work on the inside of the spine. There is that separation right down the middle. I am going to fill that gap with a couple layers of cardstock, either cardstock or cardboard. And that is so that I strengthen that center area, because that little groove is what held the signatures together. So now I need to fill that void. Otherwise, my spine is going to be weak and it's going to want to fold right in the center. So the first step, I'm going to show you here, that little groove. Do you see that little groove there? And you see how if you fold it, it folds, like it'll fold in threes right in the center, because you've got the fold on the right side and the left side, and then that center fold. So I don't want the tri-fold right in the middle. I hope that I am making sense. So I'm going to reach and grab some scrap cardboard, and this is from a tissue box. So this is going to be perfect for me to fill in that gap. And I'm just going to cut very thin strips that are going to be about the same width of that little groove, of that little notch. And I'm just going to stick it right in the center. I'll run some glue right down the middle, and then I'm going to stick this little piece of cardboard in there. And I double up on the cardboard. I'm making sure that it is going to fit nicely into that groove. And once I realize that it does, I will grab my glue. I go back and forth between the glues. So I have this Tim Holtz Collage Medium. And then I'm also using the Ultimate Glue, because that's what I have. They're both really good adhesives. And then just filling in that gap. That little gap sometimes will be maybe 1/8 of an inch, and sometimes it'll be almost 1/4 of an inch wide. Most little Golden Book spines are about 1 inch wide, but there are some that can be as wide as 1 1/4 inch, sometimes 1 1/16 of an inch. You have to measure the width of every spine because it will vary from book to book. And usually it'll vary by maybe 1/16 of an inch or 3/16 of an inch. I'm using my bone folder, and I am just securing that little piece of cardboard right down the center. The very top part was kind of tricky because it had a lot of old adhesive that was really thick, and I tried to remove it with my pick. So I was able to remove a few pieces of glue from the top half of the spine. And the areas that the glue wouldn't remove, you know, I didn't stress over that. There were a few little gaps, and I only fill in the areas that have little gaps. So this is where I try to remove some of that crusty glue. It doesn't all come off, and I don't force it because I also don't want to tear. I don't want to tear the cover, and I don't want it to accidentally tear the gold foil on the opposite side. So very gently, I'm just kind of trying to lift some of the extra crusty little glue. And see how there are small grooves still left in that center? I will trim small pieces of that cardboard, and I will fill in the gap. Once I fill in that center gap, I will then move on to the next step, where I am going to cover the entire center section of the spine with some cardboard. So I'm going to reinforce the inside center, and I'm going to show you how I do that. Right now, the focus is in filling up that little groove in the center. I told you this was a tedious little project. It takes a lot of time to work on these little golden books. A lot of time. I had someone message me recently to ask if I was going to be working on little golden books. And if my next, because I just released a batch of journals just recently, and I still have a couple left in my Etsy shop, but most of them sold. They weren't little golden books, and so I had someone ask if my next batch was going to be little golden books, and I thought, well, yeah, I could work on a batch of little golden books, but I was thinking, you know, maybe in a month or so, I'd work on like a big batch. I was really only planning on working on one, but you know, here we are. I always say that. In fact, a couple years ago, I said I would not work on multiples anymore. I don't think I've always worked on multiples. I don't know why. I feel that if I can work on one, I can work on two. And if I can work on two, I can work on four. So if I'm already working on four, why not just make 8? And if I'm doing 8, let me just make 12. I kid you not. That's what goes through my mind. That's how I think. If you have any questions, please leave me your questions in the description area below. If you have tried my method, I know that many of you have also worked on little golden books where you have saved the golden spine. Let me know how that worked out for you. I am grabbing some saved cardboard. This is from the back of a Tim Holtz paper pad. And I am going to use this cardboard to reinforce the inside of the spine. So what I did is I measured the spine, which is about, I think I measured it to 1 3/16 of an inch. And I'm going to double it up. I'm going to double layer the cardstock. Right now I am making sure that I cut it to the exact width, and I lift the covers to make sure that the front cover and the back cover open with ease, and that little cardboard isn't interfering with the opening and the closing of the front cover and the back cover. And I'm trimming it down to about 8 inches. So these little strips are specific to this spine. I have to measure each and every spine that I work on. So this one is 1 3/16 of an inch by 8 inches in length. I'm going to trim off a little bit more. I went over a little bit. I'd rather it be a little bit shorter than too long. I just want to make sure that the top and the bottom edges are flush to the cover. And this is what is going to reinforce that spine and prevent it from folding in itself in the middle. Even though I filled it with cardboard, I want to strengthen it even more. So I'm going to add some white glue, spread it evenly only in the center, and then I'm going to take the cardboard and place one of the strips down, add more glue, and then layer the second one. And then I'm going to bring it up close so that you could see how nice and flush it's going to look at the edge. Ta-da! I lift the front and the back cover to make sure that they open with ease. And once I position this one, the first one, I will then add glue and add a second layer. This is really thin cardboard, and that is the reason why I'm doubling up. If it were a little bit thicker, I would only have to use a single sheet. But can you believe I could not find any cardboard, any thicker cardboard in my stash? All I had was really thin cardboard. And I do have corrugated cardboard, but we're not going to use corrugated cardboard for this project. I want to make sure that it is sturdy cardboard. So if you don't have the thickness that you want, just double or triple it up. I'm going to set some heavy objects over the spine, and I let that sit for a couple of minutes, and now I'm back. Look at the top. See how now it's nice and strengthened? Yes, it is. and the back looks really good or the outside looks really nice, it's not going to fold in the center. And now we're going to move on to the next step. Now that my spine is nice and sturdy, I'm going to make it dust free, and I'm going to cover it with this book binding tape by Scotch. It's called Book Tape. It is 4 inches wide. I love this stuff. This has been so great. I only use this for my little golden books. I've not used it on the other journals that I make. I'm sure it would work for any type of book. It's meant to be used for books that have a damaged spine. They use this a lot in libraries. And I am just using my little brush here to get rid of any dust and lint, because I want it to be nice and dust free when I put the tape over the spine. I recommend you do this over a glass mat. And I didn't think about bringing up my glass mat until I was done. And the reason is because you can take the top edge of the tape and tape it onto the glass mat and then position it over the spine. I mean, you could do that I'm doing it on the wooden table as well, but I've done this on the glass cutting mat and it works better. I'm very carefully gliding my tape over the spine, making sure that it is centered. So it's 4 inches wide. So I'm going to use that center spine as my guide. It was a little bit awkward doing this because I wanted to keep it, the way that I'm holding it, the way that I'm working on my table, I have to kind of reach over the table to cut the tape and smooth the tape out. So it was kind of tricky trying to keep everything under the camera and trying to show you my process under the camera. So it was just a little bit awkward, but if you're not filming, it's actually a lot easier to do. So I struggle a little bit, but mainly because I'm trying to keep it under the camera, under the angle of the camera. And as you can see, I cut the tape a little bit longer than the length of the book, but that's because I'm folding it in just like I'm demonstrating. And then with my green scraper, I'm smoothing out any air bubbles. Just very carefully. I'm applying some pressure, but not too much because I don't want to damage the cover nor the spine. And then I'm going into where the grooves are, the front and back folding grooves. And then smoothing out any air bubbles. So if I missed, when I was adding glue to the spine, when I was adding the glue to glue down the golden foil, and I said if I miss some of the glue, it's okay because I'm going to use book binding tape over it. This is what I meant. And look at how beautiful that looks on the outside. Oh my gosh, so nice. So now I'm going to take more of the book tape and I'm going to add another piece to the inside. And for this, I'm only going to cut a length that is as long as the inside cover. So I'm not going to cut excess tape. Only enough to fit on the inside. I recommend using scissors like these that have that non-stick surface. These are Tim Holtz scissors. These work great when you have to cut tape. So this is the type of scissor that I recommend. And I have these others over here on the right hand side that also have that like Teflon coating. They're just not as long as the Tim Holtz scissors are. So now I am positioning the tape and then smoothing it right down the center, and then I will cut it right before the edge. As long as you don't burnish the tape, you have a little bit of wiggle room without causing the cover any damage. And I tell you this because it happened to me, where I put some tape down and I got it wrinkled. And because I hadn't burnished it, I was able to lift it very carefully and reposition it. So I don't burnish it until I make sure that it is centered and there are no wrinkles or any big bubbles in there. And then I go over it with my big scraper and then smooth everything out. This part is so satisfying. It is, working on these is worth it for me, because I enjoy the outcome, because I know that they are going to look so good when they are completed. And you don't want to skimp on this process, because if you do not strengthen that spine, you're not going to have a good junk journal at the end. It's going to fall apart. And so look at this. Here's the top. You see how I strengthened it? Now it's all even. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the cover of the junk journal. Look at how beautiful. It is so worth the time spent to make sure that this is nice and sturdy. I love working on these little golden books so much. So even though they're time consuming, even though they're tedious, I absolutely love them, because they are going to be so great, and I know they're sturdy, and I know they are well made. And then I go back and inspect and smooth out any air bubbles and any wrinkles. And that was journal number 1. Look at how beautiful that is. It's too bad that I can't work on one of these from beginning to end, because it is a long process, very long process. And so I have to break these videos up. So in today's video, as much as I wanted to even move forward and maybe show you how I, work with the pages and other papers that I incorporate, I just wouldn't be able to do it. The video would be too long. But I think this is the most important part, because adding signatures to a spine, I'm sure that you've seen that hundreds of times, but not too many videos on saving the golden spine. And I know that when I first started working with these little golden books, there weren't any videos at all. And believe me, because I searched. So I had to come up with my own method. And I'm sure that there are others that now also work on saving the golden spine. This is the second book. And this is when I thought, okay, I'm going to try and do it again. Try to heat up the gold foil, and I'm going to try to lift it. And I didn't try too much, because I warmed it up and I could not get my little pokey tool under that foil. And I tried it a couple times, as I'm showing you here, because, I wanted to give this the benefit of the doubt. Many of you have suggested that this is the best way to remove the staples, and so I wanted to give it a try. And after heating this up several times and trying to lift that foil with my little pokey tool, I gave up. I thought, it's not worth it. I'm going to go back to my old method. That glue was not budging. And I don't know if it's because this is a newer Bambi book, and the one that I worked on, the first one was one from 1975. But this foil was not budging, and then I realized, you know what? I'm just going to go back to my method where I'm going to wiggle with my bone folder. I'm going to wiggle that staple out of there, and you're going to see how easy it is to do this. So I go right in the center of the inside of the little golden book. I'm holding with my left hand to make sure I don't poke that bone folder all the way through. And I wiggle left to right, right to left, little by little until I find the staple. I'm pointing out that I found it. And I use the point of the bone folder to spread open the center pages, which will eventually separate the staples. And that is what I just did, separated the staples. Do you see how easy that was? And I'm telling you this because I want you to see how easy this is the method. This is my method of choice, and I will continue to do this. The 4 other little golden books that I worked on off camera were just as easy. It was just that first one that was giving me so much trouble. It was just so stubborn. But right here, super, super easy to find the staple, wiggle, and look at that. Look at how easy it was to take that apart. And the signatures, also very carefully, I'm just going to remove them from the staples and also from that center groove. And you could see there are also 2 signatures in the book, each signature consisting of 3 folded papers. And I will keep them in order because when I get to the point where I start building my signatures, I make sure that I keep the storyline in order. That will be in a future video. However, I do have a video where I show you how I work on adding papers and adding the signatures to the golden spine, and I will link that video for you up above. Do you see how this center groove is about 1/4 of an inch wide? I am also going to fill that gap because if I don't do it, that little center is going to be weak and it's going to want to fold on itself. Oh, and here's more options for you. I've not removed the staples. Okay, I've only separated the staples, but you could see that the staples are still in the book. You've got a couple of options. And at first I thought I am just going to snip the tines from the staple. And then I changed my mind. I'm like, I'm not going to cut them. I could, and I have in the past, where I cut them flush to the cover. So that is option number 1. You can cut the tines from your staple flush to the cover because we're going to cover it with cardboard anyway. Or here's another option. Take a little hammer and fold your tines back down and just smush them down where they are level with the cover, making sure they're not pointed up. And that is what I'm showing you here. I am just flattening out those staples. I think this is the easiest method. You don't have to worry about cutting them. You don't have to worry about little staple pieces going anywhere. Maybe on the carpet, maybe on the floor. You don't have to worry about that. We're just going to press them down. And I'm now measuring that center groove because I want to make sure that I cut strips that are going to be thin enough to fit in those grooves. And instead of just snipping away with my scissors, I'm going to use my cutter and cut some thin strips. It gets kind of tricky. Here's a tip for you. If you've got a thin piece of paper that you are running through your cutter, but it shifts because it's so thin, take some washi tape and hold your paper in place before trimming it. That will keep it from shifting, especially when you're working with narrow little pieces like this. So I am cutting little strips that are about 3/16 of an inch. And I'm also going to double it up. Do you see how perfect they fit in that center groove? See that little notch there? That is what I'm going to fill in. But because my cardboard is too thin, I have to double it up to make sure it's even with the sides. Does that make sense? This was a better visual than that first book. I'm so glad I did this. I'm so glad I'm doing the two, because they're all a little bit different. And with that first one, I was a little bit rusty. Oh, let me tell you, by the time I started working on book number 3 and 4, and then by the time I was done with the 6th book, oh, I could have done it with my eyes closed. And then for a split second, I thought, what if I work on another 6? But not right now, because, and I think, I know I've mentioned this, I'm limited in time right now because I have to fly out to California. And so I don't, if I had more time right now, believe me, I would work on another 6. So maybe when I come back from California, maybe I'll work on another batch of little golden books. But let me first focus on these and get these finished. So I'm going to add a little bit more glue, and I'm going to double up on that cardboard. I can't wait to finish these little golden books. By the way, I have a question for you. I have been working on blank journals lately, and by blank I mean where they're not embellished. I use a variety of papers in the journals. I use my DIY grungy papers. I also add scrapbooking papers and ledger paper, music paper, you know, all of those wonderful papers to create signatures. And I've not decorated the pages like I have in the past. And I'm referring to the most recent journals that I've made, where I call them blank journals. What would you like to see me do with these? Do you want me to leave them as a blank journal? And by blank, I mean they're not going to have tuck spots, side tucks, pockets, nothing like that. Just blank pages, decorative pages. Or do you want me to fully embellish these little golden books like I have others in the past? If you've watched my other little golden books, there's tuck spots, and there's side tucks, and there's flip outs, and you know, all the bells and whistles. What would you like me to do with these? Do you want them plain, or do you want them embellished? Let me know. Please let me know in the comments section below, because I value your feedback, and I'm open to either. If you want to see me do fully embellished junk journals, I'm more than happy to do that with these. Or if you want me to leave them blank so that then you can embellish however you want, then you let me know. Okay, thank you. All right, so now I did the same thing where I measured the spine, and again, this one is about 1 3/16 of an inch wide. I've cut my strips of paper down to that width, and I'm going to strengthen and reinforce that center part. And then do the same as I did with the first one, checking to make sure that you could still open and close the front and back cover. And then once I position it just right, I will then add the second layer of cardboard. Remember, if your cardboard is thicker, then you only need one layer. I know that I sound repetitive, you know, sometimes maybe even redundant, but I get so many questions regarding the little golden books, and I just want to make sure that when you begin to work on your own little golden books, that I've provided you with as much information as I possibly can so that you can now spread your wings, my child, and go make little golden books. Oh, so much fun. And remember, the more you make these, the easier it's going to get. And you don't have to work on multiples like I am. You can just do one, and it's okay. One at a time. Clearing my little book of any dust. And I'm going to cover it with my Scotch tape. Oh, I have to make a few little repairs here. I'm just inspecting that little gold foil, making sure everything is smooth, because once I put that clear tape over it, that's it. There's no going back. I'm really congested, and I don't know why. Maybe because I have the fan hitting me right in the face. I'm going to turn that off for just a second. But yeah, I just realized that. I'm really, really congested. This is one of my longest videos. I think there's one other one that I've made this long. But I hope you've enjoyed this process. It is slow, it is long, and there's a lot of information here. So this is my method. I hope that you find this helpful. I'm sharing you my tips, my tricks, my struggles. And, you know, it's how we learn. Practice makes better. And we have to also make the mistakes so that we can prevent the mistakes in the future. And just positioning the tape right in the center. Going a little bit longer so that then I can fold it over on the inside. And I'm only holding it down the center. I'm not burnishing that down yet because I want to make sure that it is wrinkle free and bubble free. And I don't struggle as much cutting this time like I did the first time. I'm telling you, I was so rusty with that first book. But it becomes, and it gets so much easier the second time around. What method do you prefer? Do you prefer using the heat tool to remove the foil and the staples? Or do you think you'll give the bone folder a try? I'd like to know. If you've already done it, I'd like to know what works best for you. Remember, there is no wrong or right way. There's only more than one way, okay? Just remember that. Always more than one way. No right or wrong way. Flip it over. Fold the top and the bottom tape. And then I will add more tape to the inside. I am so excited. I am really looking forward to working on these. I only got as far as getting all of the covers finished. And when I come back from California, I will continue to work on these and hopefully have these done soon. My sister and I were talking about Christmas in July, but unfortunately I will not be able to do Christmas in July. I've done Christmas in August in the past, but Christmas in July will not happen for me this month. I will be in California because my paternal grandmother has recently passed away, and we have services in California, and that is where I will be. And I will be there for a while. Thank you to all of you who have reached out to me and have sent me such amazing emotional support, your kind words, your virtual hugs. I appreciate you so much. My family appreciates you. My sister has also read your comments and she appreciates you. Thank you so much for all of your kindness, your love, your condolences, and your support. I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And so I will be there, and I won't be back until mid-July. As I was putting the tape down in the center, it went askew a little bit. It kind of went at an angle. And but it's okay. It's not very visible. Don't tell anybody. It'll be our secret. Just you and me will know. And it's not as visible here on the screen as it was in person. But once I add the signatures, it'll be okay. You see how it's just a little bit askew. But either way, I love how they turned out. I will have a slideshow at the end, so don't go away. And I will have a slideshow of all 6 of the covers that I did. The 2 that I worked on today, and then the 4 that I worked on off camera. And then the covers are going to look so nice because I'm still going to add the book corners to them. I'm going to add eyelets for the closure. They are going to look so amazing. So I still have more work to do with these covers. And maybe I will even embellish the fronts of the covers. I don't know. I'm going to walk away from these for a couple of weeks and then, think about it and then come back and pick up where I left off. And then very carefully, I am going to lift the front and the back cover, making sure everything works properly. See, and there is the top. Look at how nice and strengthened that looks. Oh, these journals are going to last you forever. I bet they will. Please let me know in the comments below what you think. Please let me know if you are going to give this a try. Please let me know if you found inspiration in this video. If you are new to my channel, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. Please, if you are new to my channel, I invite you to subscribe. This is the type of content I like to share with all of you. Those of you that have been with me for a while, thank you so much. I appreciate you more than you know. Stick around for the slideshow at the end. And then don't forget that I will be coming back and continuing working on all of these journals. You guys take care. You are awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And I will see you next time. Bye.